Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Church and State. My name is Timothy Johnson. I am your host. Let's get right into this. Raphael Warnock, a pro-choice pastor. Check out this tweet. Raphael Warnock is a pro-choice pastor.
I begin to pass out. Then my head hit the wall. Boom.
I know, it's almost along the lines of a vegan who eats meat, or a short basketball player, an honest politician, or maybe a Muslim who eats pork, or an atheist who believes in God, or maybe a black man who joined the KKK, a Jew who was for the Third Reich, New Agers for absolute truth, or my favorite, unborn babies for Planned Parenthood.
Ow.
That's exactly the type of statement that Raphael Warnock says when he says, I'm a pro-choice pastor. Now, what does he mean by that? He thinks he's someone who preaches the word on a Sunday morning, believes that you can also be pro-choice. Now, pro-choice sounds good, and the reason why we're talking about pro-choice today is because the March for Life just happened. March for Life is when thousands of people gather in D.C. every single year to overturn Roe v. Wade to get rid of abortion in this land. Pro-choice, it sounds so nice. Women's reproductive rights, women's security, women's health, women's rights, being pro-choice, that sounds a lot nicer than murdering babies in the womb. Or sacrificing babies on the altar of convenience. Sacrificing babies for the greater good of your life. They should only be there when you want them to be there. That's exactly what abortion does. It takes away the life of an innocent child for the convenience or perceived benefit of another. I think slavery did the same thing back in the day. That was for the perceived benefit of another person for their life at the expense of another person's well-being. Did the same exact thing. Raphael Warnock is back in the news again for a couple reasons. As you know, the March for Life just happened. You can check out some of the video footage here. Amazing. I saw some of the footage. Absolutely amazing. You had people from every walk of life gathering together to protect the rights of the unborn. Absolutely beautiful. Protecting those people who cannot protect themselves. Protecting them from bullies. But here's what Raphael Warnock just said in response to all that. He said, as a pro-choice pastor, I've always believed that a patient's room is way too small for a woman, her doctor, and the United States government. Basically, that he's saying that, look, the government shouldn't tell a woman what to do with her body. Newsflash, or the baby in that woman's womb is not her body. It's in her body, but it's not her body. If it was her body, she'd be the one being aborted. What's interesting is our guy Angel, who is the head of Red Liberty, said this in response. I wonder if there's any room for God in that patient's room. Now that's very, very true. Because what we want to do with Church and State here is make sure that God is at the center of all our discussions according to what's happening in the state. The state says it's okay to kill babies in the womb. And this pastor believes that the government should not tell a woman what to do with her life. Now what's interesting is if a man kills a woman and that woman is pregnant, it's a double homicide. So why is it a double homicide in that case, but not in the case of an abortion? It's a woman's right to choose. Something to think about. Warnock also stated, on the 49th anniversary of Roe v. Wade, I'm reminded women's health care is under attack like never before. We've got to uphold a women's right to choose and stop chipping away at reproductive freedoms. Women's decisions about their bodies belongs to them. And guess what? I completely agree. Your right to choose who you want to sleep with, that's your right. You don't get to choose the consequences though. Anything that you're doing in that sense will have consequences, whether it's a baby, whether it's an STD, whether it's harm mentally. God designed sex to be in marriage and only in marriage. That's the only place he blesses it. In fact, sex is kind of like a fire. Fire is good. Fire is a good thing. You can warm yourself up. You can feel the heat. It adds ambiance to the room it's in, but it belongs only in the fireplace. If it's in a forest and there's not contained, it destroys everything in its sight. And sex is the same way. There are consequences that are deeper than just physical consequences with sex. God designed it to be in the fireplace, in marriage, and that's where he blesses it. 90%, actually almost all these problems could be solved if people would just have sex in marriage with one person of the opposite gender. male and female. So only male and female. Even if you think you're a different gender, you are the gender that's assigned to you at birth before you were born by God. God says, I've created you male and female, and in the image of God. That's how he created us. Side note. Oh, hey, real quick, if you would like to support this content, the videos that we do, the articles, and the website, everything that we're doing with Red Liberty Media, help us grow. Become a Patreon subscriber today. The link right here will help you do that. Just click that, and it will also be in the description box below this video. Anyways, back to our scheduled program. Now, our friend Sean Foyt, who we talked about last episode with Ron DeSantis, said this in response to Reverend Raphael Warnock. I do agree that a woman has her right to choose. I don't agree, though, that a woman has a right to choose what to do with her baby's body. Totally different. That baby has totally separate chromosomes. 23 from the dad, 23 from the mom. It's not the woman's body. It's the baby's body. There's a big difference. There's no such thing as a pastor that promotes the shedding of the innocent blood of babies. You're a wolf. And I can't agree with him more. Someone who does that is not acting in accordance with the reality. In fact, as I said in episode 1, we're going to be using Webster's dictionary. The thing I love about Webster's dictionary is he takes his definitions from the Bible. That's where he links all of his definitions back to. So what does he say about truth and reality? Truth he defines as conformity to fact or reality, exact accordance with that which is or has been or shall be. We rely on the truth of the scriptural prophecies. If Webster says truth is what has always been and what will always will be in accordance with what is in God's word, what does God's word say about the taking of an innocent life? Exodus chapter 20 says, thou shalt not murder. Now some translations say thou shalt not kill, but in the Hebrew, the actual word is thou shalt not murder. You're taking the innocent life, it's murder. God cannot bless that. There is no such thing as a pro-choice pastor. There is no such thing as pro-choice Catholic. There is no such thing as pro-choice Christian. Just like there is no such thing as a vegan who eats meat, or an atheist who believes in God, or a Muslim who eats pork. It is an oxymoron. It does not exist. If you are someone claiming like Raphael Warnock that you're a pro-choice pastor, you're not even a pastor. You're actually a wolf. And that's exactly what Sean says. How does this relate to all of church and state, though? Unborn babies are just as much deserving of our inalienable rights as you and I are watching this right now. In fact, what does the Declaration say? You know the thing. The thing? All men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I love that. We believe that all men are created equal. Where does creation start? The moment the sperm and the egg meet, that's when you have everything you need for a human being. Everybody in the womb is deserving of those same rights. The same rights that God has given us, that our Constitution recognizes, are the same rights that the unborn have as well. And we should uphold those rights for them and fight for those rights just as those who marched in D.C. at the March for Life did this past weekend. And the last thing I'll say is this. If unborn babies do not have the right to life, what makes you think the government cares any more about you and I? If these people the government can say are not deserving of rights, what happens to the elderly eventually? Well, you're too old, you've served your purpose. What happens to those who are handicapped? What happens to those with Down syndrome? Well, they can't do anything for society, so that's it. You see what a slippery slope this goes down? Do you see how easily the Nazis descended into this evil confusion? When you reject God, you reject wisdom. When you fear God, you have wisdom. Wisdom only comes with God. That's why Webster was able to write this entire dictionary. He had wisdom that came from God. And finally, last thing, more black babies are killed in the womb every single day than the KKK did in their entire life. If Raphael Warnock really wants to uphold Martin Luther King's legacy and be anti-racist, he should talk about that and not being a pro-choice pastor. He's actually perpetuating the racism of Margaret Sanger and Planned Parenthood. With that, thanks for watching. Send this to somebody who disagrees with everything on this video today. Maybe it will change their minds, and then send it to another friend as well. And with that, that's the end of Church and State today. I'm Timothy Johnson for Red Liberty Media.